Welcome to episode 39 of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast. Hope everybody is off to a great start to their day if you're watching on the live. And welcome to the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business, you guys. And we got a great show, jam-packed show ready for you guys today. Just wanted to make sure that everybody was reminded about giveaway Friday, free giveaway Friday. So we're going to be giving away T65 leads to anybody, not anybody, but one special person, one lucky person.
Maybe two.
That comments on the live stream in the Facebook group on any of our various different streams over the course of this week. Okay. So that's how you be entered to win. Just make sure you drop a comment on any other streams. This one suffices. Okay. And yeah, we have a jam-packed show for you guys today. Couple of awesome different topics. The first topic we wanted to kind of start off with you guys is health, right? How does health affect you in business? And I wanted to kind of start off by sharing a little bit of stuff personally, right? I'm somebody that's routinely over the years put business before my health, right? I'm just going hard in the paint when it comes to when it comes to working and everything like that, right? And maybe,
get those rebounds, baby. He's working the glass.
Prioritizing getting my work done and growing the business, and also prioritizing maybe convenience over health and everything like that. And the last year or so, I have found myself, I guess I found myself, just feeling a little easier drained, right? I think that's just natural with getting older and everything like that. But it became very apparent to me that if I want to be able to keep my level of productivity in the business and getting everything done that I get done, I'm not going to be able to do it long term if I'm not taking care of myself. And that was just a big eye opener for me. I know you've been on kind of a similar journey as 100%. Well. Talk about it a little bit.
I think in your 20s you can get away with it, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the realization we both kind of are coming to at similar times. We're close in age. Christian's my little brother. He's younger. He's feeling, I think, the same thing that I'm feeling, though, as we are getting older. I do think it's interesting. I think if you were to chart my personal health and my business health, how the business is performing and how my personal health is performing, I think it's actually, if you mapped it, it would be pretty similar. When Lead Heroes was having a bad year, I want to say it was 2017, 2018. There was a couple things going on. It just things weren't clicking the way I wanted it to. There was a congruency there between my personal health. I was, not moving my body hardly at all. My shoulder at the time was really bothering me. I think I had I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I had something that happened to my shoulder, and I would be laying on the floor of my office making calls and a ton of, just literally just because sitting would hurt my shoulder. And I just thought laying down was the best for making my shoulder not hurt. And it definitely had an impact. My health definitely had an impact directly on how the business was performing. And now, and this kind of fits in. I don't think we talked about it on the gimmick hack, and I wanted to bring this one up, our gimmick hack segment, because this is one of those things that a lot of people pumped out for a long time, where it's you have to prioritize your health in order to be really successful, or if you want to make a bunch of money. And again, in my 20s, when I'm hearing that, I was like, bullshit. You don't have to do that. Not necessary. But now, as I'm getting also just to see how much, like you said, productivity wise, how much prioritizing my health, working out, I try to work out every morning. that has benefited our business. I think it is a hack for sure.
I would agree. I mean, and I think you hit it right on the head when you said, like, both of us started our careers when we were really relatively young, right?
Yeah.
So like I got into the business 2021, and I remember in your early 20s, right? It's an interesting dynamic when you're trying to build a business when you're in your early 20s. It's a weird thing, honestly. Because I remember situations where, you know, my wife and I weren't married yet. We would be dating and we'd be up late at night, you know, drinking our brains out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I had a few of those.
And waking up at like 8 a.m., just dying and having an appointment at 9.
Yeah.
You know, like that, like I did that a ton.
Absolutely.
In my early 20s.
I did too.
And that lifestyle, you know, it's you can, again, I think you said it best. It's easier to get away with when you're in that age bracket and that age demographic. It's tougher once you hit 30. And, you know, like I recently went to my doctor maybe about 3 months ago. And my doctor told me that he's like, you're good. You're pretty healthy, but your cholesterol's starting to get a little high. He's like, and my doctor has known me for several years. I go for every year for a checkup. And he's like, knowing you, he's like, you're too busy to prioritize your health, but you need to start because this could turn into a bit more of a problem, that kind of thing.
Right.
And so, you know, I've started to take it incredibly seriously to start my day going to the gym, working out. People have been asking me, by the way, they're like, why do you go to the gym? I've been getting like DMs like, why do you go to the gym?
Really?
You have a gym in your house. What's wrong with you?
Oh.
And it's like, and I'm like, while this is true, the gym is really close to the office. It's just a convenience thing, right? The gym that I go to, it's just easy to beat the traffic and get out here, you know, early in the morning kind of thing. On the days I work from home, because half the week I work from home, give or take, I use the home gym. But I think, you know, like it's one of those things where if you live an unhealthy lifestyle and you're younger, let's say, and you're burning the candle at both ends, if you will, it gets to the point where you can still get the same amount of work done as you get older, but it just takes more and more of you, right, to get it done. That's kind of the way I look at it. Like it's takes more and more effort to get the same amount of work done that maybe would take half the amount of effort 3 or 4 years ago.
So my nephew, he graduated high school sometime in the last 4 years, 3 years ago, and my family, we all got on a Zoom call together because I think this was around the pandemic. So we're all even the family that were kind of nearby, I think we were all on a Zoom call together, and we were all kind of going around. It was kind of cool. We're all going around giving him advice of like, you know, hey, congratulations, you're graduating high school. Like, here's kind of my one thing.
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
I always feel like when I'm in that situation with someone who's graduating high school, I always feel like they don't listen to me. And then I walk away feeling disrespected. I'm like, I'm the most successful person that you're ever going to talk to. You know,
dude, they're 18, 17. Of course
they're not. I know.
Of course they're not gonna. You think this kid listened to me when I was? Of course they did. No. Did you listen to anybody when you were 7? No, you didn't listen to anybody.
No.
I didn't listen to anybody.
But it makes me angry. I need
to
see a therapist.
You're like, hang on a second, Glenn. I want to tell you how angry I am about this already. We need an anger management program for you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're going around and you know, people are sharing their advice for him, and
yeah,
this was my one piece. Is I was like, hey, because I think this was around the time I was dealing with like this shoulder issue I was having. And, you know, I've been a relatively healthy person, but there has been some small things that have come up. And a lot of it stems from just not taking care of my body. And I told him, I said, listen, you know, I'm like, you know, 12 years, 13 years older than him. And I'm just like, you only get one chance, like with your body. You know, once your health is gone, there's no guarantee you can get it back. I'm like, if I could go back in time to when I had graduated high school, I wish I had been on kind of this journey that I'm on now. You know, I wish I had been on this regimen of like really prioritizing my health, because it's so much easier to maintain it, I feel like, once you have it. But if you don't have it, trying to get it back can be really hard, and there's a chance you won't get it back. You could have a severe injury, a severe illness, whatever it is. Also, I was listening to, did you listen to the Mark Zuckerberg podcast?
I listened to probably all of it except for the last like 20 minutes. I didn't finish the last 20 minutes. I listened to almost all of it.
I didn't quite finish it either. And God, the amount of jujitsu talk, I'm just like, can we fast forward the jujitsu talk? But they, you know, Mark was training for jujitsu, and he blows out his ACL, and they spent a lot of time talking about this exact topic.
Yeah,
about, you know, how can I train or you know, work out to stay healthy. And Mark, it was super interesting to hear his perspective, because I feel the same exact way in our business. Mark's talking about how he will work out early and train to the point where he's going through the day tired. He's physically tired from training. And he said it gives him kind of this perspective, like, you know, I just got my ass kicked in the gym training for jujitsu for, you know, 2 hours. What's the day going to give me that could really be that much worse, right? I mean, that's my same perspective too. Like, that's why I do ice baths. That's why I try to work out every morning, is like, it's that productivity, but there's also this mental aspect to it as well. But it was super interesting. I mean, imagine the sort of shit he has to deal with, right, on a day. I mean, he was talking about foreign governments. Could you imagine, like, like France calling us, hey, ESI, we're going to fine you $10 billion. Like,
excuse me?
Yeah.
Sacre bleu? Yeah. I think it's a great point, you know, and I think, you know, you made the comment recently and about, you know, I just feel better going throughout the day. You know, I feel more alert. I feel more awake. I feel more able to handle challenges that might come up throughout the day and putting out fires. And I feel the same way. You know, for a long, I think you can get by and be successful without necessarily prioritizing that. But I think the longer you do it, the harder and harder it becomes. You know, I'll never forget, we were on, you know, one of our infamous insurance agent cocktail parties years ago during COVID. And I remember I'm on this Zoom, and we're all having, you know, alcohol to drink. I have this bottle of wine, like red wine, but it's like this cheap, shitty wine, that I just went and quickly grabbed somewhere, you know, in preparation of it. And then I have this bag of Cheetos next to it. And Chris Weir, shout out Chris Weir and Lead Concepts, you know, he's on the call. He's like not saying much. He's texting me during the call, during the online virtual cocktail party. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, we would do these during COVID just to kind of keep sanity. We would do these insurance agent Zoom cocktail parties. It became kind of a thing. And, you know, a lot of times there was like anywhere between 10 to 30 people on. Like, it became kind of a big deal. So anyway, Chris Weir's on, he's texted me, and he's like, red wine and Cheetos, question mark. And how many years ago was this now? This would have been 5 years ago. So I would have been
shamed.
I would have been 27 at the time. And, you know, he's texting me that, and he's like, oh, to be young. He's like, you cannot. He's like, you're going to get your ass kicked, basically, is what he was saying in nicer words. As you get older, you keep doing things like that. And I was just like, whatever, Chris. You know, I'm like,
you don't know anything, Chris.
It wasn't necessarily that. You know, Chris is in great, fantastic condition. I don't know. You know, probably was the wine. I was just like, you know. But
no, you were from 18 to 28. You were the same person. You were like, I don't need to listen to anybody. I'm not listening to anybody. I know what's best.
I want to make some time, you guys, for this episode's sponsor.
Yes.
Glenn, tell us about this episode's sponsor real quickly.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Lead Heroes. Lead Heroes right now has a special going on with Turning 65 leads. You can actually get a Turning 65 lead that is personalized and exclusively generated for you or your agency for just $25. Normally they're $45 per lead. So that is almost 50% off, and there is a limited quantity and a limited time to take advantage of this offer at Lead Heroes. So if you are interested in speaking with more seniors who are 2 to 5 months out from turning 65, again, exclusively generated for you or for your agency, adhering to all compliance rules, including the new FCC rules. We've gotten a ton of communication at Lead Heroes, questions about what's going on regarding the new FCC rules. You don't have to worry about any of that. We also did an entire episode about that last week that you guys can listen to. So again, if you're looking for more seniors that you can speak to that are turning 65, hit up Lead Heroes now before these turning 65 leads get sold out. They sell out almost every time we do a promotion like this. That's leadheroes.com, leadheroes.com.
Love it. Love it. Now let's shift gears to the main topic of this episode, right? And that is, what does it take for an agent to go from 6 figures, potentially multiple 6 figures, to 7, right? What is the difference? And I was thinking about this morning in kind of like preparation, because I feel like this topic in and of itself could be a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, it's a big one.
There's so many things that I feel like factor into really growing, right? Like if it was just one thing and it was simple and it was easy, everyone would do it. I think it's a multitude of different things, but I wanted to kind of start off with kind of your early thoughts on this, right? Like as we're beating this topic back and forth, what do you feel like is some of the biggest contributing factors that make that difference? Because in your business before we merged, right, you were in the 6-figure range, then the multiple 6-figure range, then in the 7-figure range of the company prior to us merging, right? I mean, now it's just ridiculous, but but talk about that a little bit.
We'll have to change it to the 8 figures or bust podcast here soon, you guys. This topic is meaningful to me because I understand the frustration of being at that 6-figure level and you feel really successful. You're like, I've got a business that's generating revenue and it's not nothing like this. If you're generating multiple 6 figures, pat yourself on the back. You're doing great. Most businesses struggle to even get that far. But then, of course, you're looking at that next milestone. How can I get to 7 figures? How can I go from 6 figures to 7 figures? And what I can tell you guys is I went down many different paths thinking I was going to shortcut my way there. And many paths that I chose were complete misdirections. They were not the right path. Ultimately, what got Lead Heroes specifically to 7 figures from 6 figures was doing our core business right, really correctly honing in that core service, which is taking a trained virtual assistant, having them make phone calls on your behalf and passing along that call verified lead, that core process at Lead Heroes, and scaling that. And at the time, the process that I thought would get me there was going horizontal. I went down all these different paths. Okay, we're gonna do Facebook leads, and we'll do these call verified leads. Okay, we're gonna do direct mail leads, and we'll do this. We're gonna build websites. Like there were so many different little things that I'm like, this, if I can scale another revenue source that's in line with what I'm already doing, that'll get me there. But honestly, if I could go back in time, I would just slap myself across the face and be like, no. Like, these are all just distractions. It was a waste of time, I'd say, majority of the time. And I have similar thoughts on the agency side too, but I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts. Again, you've been on that same journey, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if did you ever feel stuck? Did you ever have that feeling of like almost frustration about not getting the 7 figures?
Constantly.
Yeah.
On the pathway to there. I'm mentally ill, so I still feel that all the time.
We're learning a lot today, you guys. We're learning a lot today.
No, I think I definitely had those feelings on a recurring basis. We should interview my wife on the show one of these days, and she can kind of talk about all my
Could you imagine
the madness of living with me.
We need to get your wife to just start secretly, like, we're filming you, and we'll have like a clip show, or it's just like 3 a.m. Christian's just like hammering away at his laptop.
Yeah. It's very real, very reality.
Yeah. I know it is.
But I think for me, I think what allowed me to really continue to make the jumps was a couple of things. So what got me to 6 figures was I worked my tail off. I worked long hours. I just outworked other people.
Right.
Like I made more calls. I went on more appointments. I'd work weekends. I'd work evenings. I'd do whatever I had to do if someone was willing to talk to me as an agent. But what I was not doing that got me to 6 figures, that helped me get to 7 figures, was, I believe, 3 things. And there's probably more than 3 things, but if I had to pick 3 like core elements, I would say the first one was investing into my business. It took me longer than I like to admit to really embrace that. I really didn't spend a whole lot of money on the business for the first, I would say, 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
And it was really just me busting my hump. And I grew the business probably to multiple 6 figures just off of that. And then I don't think it was any like light bulb moment or something clicked. Something along the way. I think I might have read a book. I might have did a training. Might have watched a video. I don't remember. But it might have been a Cardone video, actually. I think he was doing an interview with someone, and he said, at a certain point, if you don't spend money in your business, you can't grow. It's impossible. That was the phrase he said. I think that's what it was. And I was like, well, damn. I'm like, that's me. And I was already at a point where I felt like I wasn't growing nearly as much as I was before.
Right.
I would go, at the beginning, and this is easy to do, let's say your first year you make 50K, second year you do 100K, you know what I mean? You're doubling up. And then maybe the next year, you go from 100K to 120. It's like, okay,
Right.
I didn't grow as much, but I'm still growing, but the growth slows down because you're a one-man show. You're not spending money on your business. That was the second thing, was being willing to bite the bullet and bring on team members and grow our staff. And I think about everything the company does today. There's no way that it could ever do anywhere close, even 10% of all the things the company does, if it was still me operating in that way when I was in the early years and I was making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, that kind of thing. And I think the third thing is not wasting my time on things is something I had to learn. Not wasting my time on things, learning the value of my own time, and understanding that and even to an extent, like I remember years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, you might, but I remember you calling me and I just got done with an appointment and I had like 4 appointments that day in the office. It might've been 3 years ago, probably at least 3 years ago. And you're like, what you doing? I'm like, oh, I just got done with an appointment. I wrote 6 apps today or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? You're like, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? I wrote 6 apps. And I'm like doing the math. I'm like, I made this much money for the company today. And while that's important, there's bigger scale things that at this point I can be doing for my business. And I feel like at the beginning of building an agency, you have to write the business. But when you're trying to go to 7 figures, and there's very few people I've ever met that, grow to 7 figures and, they grow past 7 figures and they figure this out. There's some, that make it to 7 figures without isolating some of these things, but there's few and far between, I feel like. And so the big 3 for me to just kind of, rewind was, understanding the value of my time, spending money, and being willing to hire. All 3 of those things terrified me. I was terrified to spend money. I was terrified to hire people. Hiring people at the beginning was crippling for me. I knew I had to do it for probably 2 years before I even did it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it. At the time, hiring somebody was as much as my mortgage was. One person every month.
Right.
And I'm taking on a second mortgage. That's what I kept telling myself. And removing myself from personally producing was scary to me because I was the best producer in the company. Right. Yeah. So I'm like, how do I take myself, the best producer, out of producing? And that all was very scary to me. But all of those things allowed me to put my time and my focus into things that propelled the company way forward by doing, real big things and power moves, for the business. And I think those things all played really, really pivotal roles. I'm sure there's other things that we're going to dissect and dive into, but those were the things that really
that's a good 3. That's a good 3. And I think what makes it so frustrating, I think part of the reason why, as business owners, agency owners, agents, entrepreneurs, I think the reason that 6 to 7 figure jump is so difficult is because what got you to 6 figures won't get you to 7.
Right. You have to reprogram yourself in a way.
Yeah. And essentially it was the same thing for me in the sense that I'm, being willing to do whatever it takes, working around the clock, wearing all the hats. But essentially to get out of that and to get to 7 figures, you have to replace yourself. You have to really get out of your own way because you become the bottleneck, essentially. At Lead Heroes, as an example, for many, many years, anytime someone wanted to buy leads, if they didn't do it directly through the website, it was going through me. I was sending the invoice. I was talking to the agent on the phone, the agency on the phone, explaining how the program works, any sort of customer service related issue, so I had already developed the operations side of it, of how the lead gets generated, the call center aspect, the management in the call center. I'd already removed myself from that piece of it. And I was able to figure that out pretty fast for whatever reason. I figured out, okay, I can't manage all the callers. Someone else needs to come in and be able to manage it. I need a quality assurance team. Like, I was able to remove myself from that pretty quickly. But then when it came to the front end of the business, I really struggled to remove myself. And that was one of the major bottlenecks that kept me at 6 figures for a long time. It was essentially me refusing to get out of my own way. And I think you experience a lot of that same. And it's tough because it is, you're letting go of control, right? I mean, that's a big part of it, is like, you're controlling this portion of your business, of your agency. And by removing yourself, you're kind of letting go. There's so much about this that I think we could talk about. I saw this video the other day that I don't know who it was, but their quote was, if someone does it 80% of my 100%, that's amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
I will take that every single time. And I try to live by a similar standard. When it comes to replacing yourself, the chances of you bringing someone in and they will do it exactly how you did it or better than you did it is rare. Not saying it can't happen. Obviously, if it's not like something you're excellent at, you can hire someone to come in and maybe do it better than you. But something like for you, Christian, producing, obviously hiring someone, bring them in to replace your production, that's going to be really difficult. But that 80% rule, I think, is a really good rule of thumb for people to follow.
Yeah, I would agree. Another one that I think about too, that I think is such a relevant topic that a lot of agents experience, because I hear it from them all the time, is that agents have this fear of someone else talking to their clients, right? You hear
Yes.
we hear this all the time.
All the time.
It's like, oh, they're used to me. They're used to dealing with me. You know,
That's what makes me special, is it's
right,
always me.
right,
Yeah.
right.
That kills me.
And
That kills me when I do that. I'm like,
and
okay.
so let me put a little bit of perspective into this, right? Like, I was that guy too. You know, I gave
True.
my
It's
first
hard to believe that looking at you now. You've come so far. I'm so proud of you. I'm so
yes,
proud of you.
personal growth, right?
Yes. Yes.
But you know, I've said this many times, and I give you a lot of credit because you've helped me learn a lot of these things. You know, you've contributed in helping me learn. You know, that it's dumb for me to be doing that. Like my first 500 clients that I ever wrote, I gave them my cell phone number. I used to have my cell phone number on my business card. I think it was a year or two ago. I posted in the Facebook group and I said, if you give your cell phone number to a
Oh
client,
yeah,
you're dumb.
that was a spicy yeah, that was a
And that
spicy
pissed so
topic.
many people off, but it's true. I ended up changing my cell phone number about a year ago because I got to this point where the clients would not stop calling me, and they wouldn't call the office where we have this infrastructure and everything like that. And then what we did was we ported my number to the office. So they call my number, they call the office. Boom. You don't have a choice anymore. You can call
Yep.
whatever number you want. It calls the same place. But
Gotcha.
but like I did that, right? And I would
Yeah.
take calls I would take calls on my cell phone from clients on weekends, in the evenings, on holidays, on my birthday, like because
Yeah.
there was no one else,
Right.
right? It was me or bust.
But there could have been, right? There could have been someone else back then.
Probably so. I was so scared of hiring somebody.
Right.
Like I said, it was just such a scary thing to me. And and I had all of the same limiting beliefs that a lot of agents that I talk to today have. You know, well, it's me. You know, I sell myself. I'm the one. You know, I'm the brand. That's why the company was called Christian Brindle Insurance Services originally, because it was branded me. You know, I'm in the videos. I'm on the postcard. I'm on the billboards. I'm everywhere. And these agents have this perception that, like, if there's someone else that the clients talk to, that I'm going to lose a majority of my clients. I'm going to lose half of my clients. I'm going to lose a
Yeah.
huge portion of my clients. And what I found out was this episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by Everything Senior Insurance. Guys, if you're looking for an FMO in 2025 to be a partner with you and really support the overall growth of your business, Everything Senior Insurance is the one-stop shop to allow you to get plugged in with great resources. Whether it's ACA contracts you're looking for, whether it's Medicare contracts you're looking for, whether it's final expense and life contracts that you're looking for, Everything Senior Insurance has got you covered. We provide a free CRM in Seven Figure CRM to all of our agents that meet the proper requirements on their contracting and have enough contracts with us. We provide discounted leads with Lead Heroes, discounted virtual assistants with Hire Heroes, and we provide just year-round support to just be there and help you out in your business, as well as fantastic training. Glenn, what do people need to know about Everything Senior Insurance, the FMO?
At Everything Senior Insurance, we've really combined all of our resources to create an FMO that can be a true one-stop shop for a senior insurance agent. Most FMOs have only maybe one resource or even no resources beyond offering that contract. We want to provide value to you as an agent to help you grow your book of business. Or if you want to create an agency, we want to help you grow your agency. And there's so many resources that we have put together to really help you grow your business. So if you are looking for a true partnership, someone that will invest in your business, please reach out to Everything Senior Insurance. We would love to help you grow.
Thanks for listening to this message. And now back to the show. You have to train your clients, because I went through this. You have to train your clients. Today, I might speak with less than 5 clients a year. And that's probably 5 too many. You know what I mean? And one of them is Glen's mom. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, and the rest of them are like personal friends, you know, like people, family friends, things like that, you know. It's very rare that I have any interaction these days with a client, because we've built this system and this infrastructure, and over time we've trained them to talk to our other people, and we've trained them to not only talk to our other people, but trust in them that they'll be able to handle their problems and their issues. And you know, I had this fear. I'm like, oh, we're going to lose this huge amount of people if they won't talk to me, right? If they're not able to talk to me, if they're not reachable to be able to talk to me. And the reality is, we ended up losing maybe 1 or 2% of our clients. Maybe not even that. Maybe I'd say maybe 1%.
Maybe not even. Probably 1%.
Maybe less than 1%. It's a very small amount. And the people that we lost are people I would have paid to leave.
Right.
They were difficult clients that I didn't want anyway. You know what I mean?
Time wasters. The thing that, you know, and we've kind of been coming back to this, is when you're starting at zero, it's really easy to do it all yourself and have all roads lead back to you.
Yeah.
Your first 50, 100, whatever the number ends up being, you know. I think it's a double-edged sword here, because on one hand, I don't want a new agent, like if a new agent's listening to this, I don't want someone who's brand new to think that they need to go set up all this complex infrastructure when they haven't even sold an app yet, right?
Of course.
So it's like a double-edged sword. But the flip side is,
remember, we're talking about going from 6 figures to 7, right?
That's true. That's true. This is 300 to 500 clients to, you know, 2,000 clients, right? It's that type of jump.
The lesson, if you're new, that I would take from what I just talked about is, don't give out your cell unless you're planning on changing it, right? Have like a VoIP number, right? Something like that.
I want you to post it again in the group today. I want you to post it again. Be like, you're dumb if you post your cell phone. If you give your cell phone number. No, but the flip side is that, like, if you think wherever you're at, even if let's say you're doing, you know, 50,000 a year, let's say you're not even quite at 6 figures. If you can look ahead and understand what will scale and what will not scale, that's the trick.
Yes.
That's what I feel like I'm obsessed with now, is whenever Christian and I are putting something together, whether it's an existing revenue source, or we're building a new revenue source, or we're trying to change something, I'm obsessed with trying to figure out what's scalable and what's not before it gets launched. And that's something originally I didn't put as much emphasis in. Originally, it's, how do I make this work? How do I make the client happy? Like, how do I make a product or a service that works? You know, or sell the policy, right? Whatever. Now it's, well, how does this go from 100 to 1,000 without me being involved? You know, that how can I remove pieces of this that won't scale? And in my opinion, that's the mindset of going from 6 to 7 figures, is how can you scale without being involved in the core process?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? Like, you know, circling back to a little bit on the client, not talking to clients kind of thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
we've gone so far now, I'm not even on the menu for the office. So if you call the company, like, you can't get to me. There's no way. It's impossible because, like, and this happens over time, right? You have to train your clients. And we still have the occasional person
You
here
do.
and there, as you know, right? They call up and they throw a fit and they want to talk to me. We'll have someone else call them back like an hour or two later. Like, it's just because I just don't have the time to be everywhere. And I've communicated that to the company, to everyone in our company. Like, I just can't do everything all at the same time. I'm not Jesus, as I've said before, maybe not as eloquently. I'm not omnipresent. And but like, my time is best spent in the company today in finding high level solutions to problems that are going on, in
Yep.
terms of like systems and processes. Working with our agents, some of our high level agents, and trying to help them solve problems in their agency to continue to help grow. You know, trying to work with larger agencies and trying to find ways to partner with them, forming strategic partnerships, right, with different
Forming
people,
strategic partnerships. That's a big
um,
one.
finding ways to market our various services, right, finding creative ways to market, honing in our marketing and our promotion, the summit, all of these
Tell the
things.
people what you're doing today. Tell the people what you're doing today.
Oh
That's a
yeah, yeah.
high level 7-figure type task.
Yeah. I am going on the telly today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going on
Telly.
television. I'm going on our local Fox 13. As many of you might know already, we sent an email blast out yesterday to all of our agents and clients, basically informing them that we're rebranding from Christian Brindle Insurance Services as an agency to Everything Senior Insurance. And so today, in probably about 3 or 4 hours, I'm going on our local Fox 13 to do an interview and talk about our rebrand to try to make sure that we get the word out. So yeah, that's a great example. That's something that only I can do in the
Yes.
company, right? Like,
Yes.
it's a very difficult proposition to send one of our team members at this point to do that. Now, maybe
Yeah.
down the road,
Right.
that
Maybe.
gets to, maybe that
For sure.
changes. But today, that's a Christian only task. So I think when you're growing and you're looking to scale, identifying like where is the most value that your time can be spent in your business, what's going to move the needle the most. Is it you doing data entry into your CRM? Is it you personally selling policies? Is it you finding ways to generate an incredibly high quality lead that you can scale with, right?
Right.
Through marketing efforts or anything like that? Is it figuring out how to cross sell? Like, it's probably not doing data entry into your
Right.
CRM,
Right.
right? But like, making a list of everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. That's something I've done before. And then
Yep.
looking at it and be like, that wasn't a good use of my time. That wasn't a good use of my time. That wasn't a good use of my time. And then finding ways for it to still get done, because it needs
Yep.
to get done, but without you personally having to do it. And that's what really helps the business take leaps towards that 7-figure mark.
100%. This has been such a great roadmap, I feel like, for someone I wish I had this type of information when I was stuck at 6 figures, because it's a really frustrating feeling to feel like you're stuck, to feel like you're spinning your wheels. You keep doing the same thing every day without making those changes. I think the thing that I keep coming back to when I'm thinking about my own personal experience in this conversation and what is most likely limiting these agents, agencies, business owners that might hear this podcast, I think it's really fear that's keeping you at 6 figures more than anything. because there's these pieces of your business that you really have to let go of to scale. You become the bottleneck. I can't stress it enough. Like I already mentioned, is probably the number one thing, and it's very similar to Christian in the agency letting go of personal production, Christian in the agency letting go of customer service, and having his cell phone number be the agency number.
Yeah.
I went through really the same thing at Lead Heroes. I was the point of contact for customer service. I was the point of contact for sales. Like that was the number one bottleneck. That was one of the number one pieces that kept me from going from 6 to 7 figures. Like you have to have the infrastructure, the staff. You have to let go. You have to spend your time doing even more important things than the actual sales and customer service. Sales and customer service, look at any company in America, around the world, like those are hired for positions. The CEO, the owner, the president, whatever your title is as owner of your business, like you should be able to do those things, but you can't be the only one doing those things. Right?
Absolutely. I almost feel like there's 4 like basic principles that you need to master, right? I think lead flow and marketing. You need lead flow and marketing. Technology, right? Because I think about also in my early years, I wasn't even using a CRM. I had paper apps for everything and file cabinets. I was 21, 22 years old. I was like a senior. I was like a boomer. I didn't know any different. I didn't know any better, So you need systems and technology to make your life easier. You need standard operating procedures and processes internally for how things are done, because that helps you onboard people better. It helps give direction to people better when you bring people into the business. And then I think the 4th thing is you can't be alone. You just can't be alone. You have to you have a ceiling of what you can accomplish by yourself. There's so many people that I've seen over the years, and I know you have as well, that are agents that they just, they're these guys that have been in the business 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, maybe longer. And they have this pride that they do everything by themselves.
Yes.
It's like this point of like, contention where it's like, look at me, I do all this by myself. I'm better than you. But it's like, yeah, your business is shit compared to mine. Like it just is, like when you really look at it, like someone needs to tell some of these people that, like your business is 1% or 5% is the size of mine. You know what I mean? So like, what are you really bragging about?
Even more than like the size or the revenue that's generating, if you can't take a day off, be sick for a day, or go on a vacation for a day, and your business can't operate because you are either, unable to be available for whatever reason, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem that a lot of you aren't. Oh, well, they can just leave a message and I'll get back to them later. Well, they might leave by the time you get back to them.
Right. It's just not good business.
It's just bad business. How do you operate under those circumstances? I don't get it.
It's like, it's like running like a small business of some kind out of your garage or out of your basement or something, and you're the only one doing it. And, you're smack talking somebody that has built a big business that has an office with tons of employees and everything like that. It just is silly to me. It just, and I don't understand it. Like people are like, well, I can't trust people when I hire people.
That was what I was about to say next, is the mindset of I can't trust anyone to come into my business because they'll steal my clients, they'll steal my personal information. I can only bring family in to help me. Right.
Oh, that's the other big that is.
Yeah. Do you remember the person I was fighting with? Who's this exact? They said, well, maybe. I'm bringing my wife in They were like, to help free up my time, I'm bringing my wife in, and they
That's
were
a
like,
disaster.
what?
That is a disaster. Did you know that before my dad, as an agency owner, right? And by the way, for perspective, right? My dad never had more than one part-time receptionist in his career. So
Crazy.
that was even a big leap for him, right? But for about 10 years of his business, it was just him working out of our basement, and he had no employees. He hired and fired, by the way, my mom on 2 or 3 different occasions. You think that's good for the relationship? You think that's good for the relationship? Because they didn't work well together. Like,
I didn't know this.
My parents are still together. They have good marriage, everything like that. But like, you might damage your relationship and get divorced. You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
I'm sure there's plenty of stories out there for sure.
I've worked with my wife, but we put her in an agent role where it didn't matter how much she worked.
Right.
Right. And she ultimately ended up deciding she didn't want to do it. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. It caused no tension in the relationship.
Right.
But like, if your spouse is your receptionist, like, it toes the line very in a very in my opinion difficult way. Like, it's just I don't understand that. You're like, sir, can you trust your spouse? Probably so.
Right.
But there's things you can do to protect yourself first off when people come in. You can have contracts, agreements, things like that when you hire somebody. And if you hire somebody that you can't trust, you have to replace them. You get rid of them. You bring in another person. The next person, you get better at hiring. You get better at knowing what to look for. It's a learning process of hiring and being an employer, just like it is at anything, like being a salesperson, like being a business person, like being a marketer. And I think it's just this fear of going through the pain of learning how to do it right and hiring the wrong person. Everybody does it, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people have one bad experience, right? Which again, Christian and I have hired and fired. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but there's been a lot of people over the past 20 years of combined experience that Christian and I have hired and fired. And we either immediately knew or took some time to figure out. We're like, oh man, this is not the right person for this job.
Yes.
And there's some of you out there who go through that, and your takeaway is, I need to not hire anybody, or I need to hire family because I can't hire someone because look what just happened, Glenn. Look what just happened. I just hired someone and I caught them lying to my clients. I caught them not working on the job and trying to get their paycheck still, blah, 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 whatever happened. And that's insanity. That's insanity to make that conclusion. And I think that's essentially what happened with the guy I was fighting with in these Facebook comments is I believe he hired someone, had a bad experience. He said he can't trust anybody. And then he goes down this rabbit hole. It was a big, long thread. And I just kept firing away and he kept responding. But his whole thing is he's like, I'm going to get my time back. I'm going to be able to spend more time with my family. I'm going to bring my wife into my business. I'm like, what are you saying? I'm like, you're talking out both sides of your mouth right now.
Right. So let me get this straight. You're going to bring your wife into the business.
Yes.
So you can spend more time with her, but she's working.
Yes. That's what I thought. I'm like, what are you saying? I'm like, none of this makes any sense. I'm like, nothing you posted in this thread makes any sense. You can't do this.
It's not to say that husband and wives can't work together in certain capacities, right? Like there's certain examples, there's plenty of examples of that, but like, I think, man, I don't know, bringing in your wife as a receptionist, I've seen it go ugly a lot in agencies and with agents that I know. Usually it works out the best when the spouse gets their license and they run the business with you. You're doing the business together, right? But like, when you're like their manager or their boss, like that's a weird dynamic. You know what I mean? That's a weird dynamic. And you end up like my dad and fire her. And
that's so crazy. That's so crazy. I had no idea. I love it.
So that was, long before he ever hired anybody into his business. And then, he hired a part-time 20, 25-hour receptionist, and that's never went past that, and he was like, oh, this is okay.
Let's circle the wagons here. We're coming up at the end of the hour. I want to be respectful of your time and my time and our listeners' time. Let's boil this down for your final thoughts for someone who, let's say someone skipped to the end of this episode. Final thoughts. Someone stuck at 6 figures. They're trying to get to 7. What would you tell them?
If you're stuck and you're having trouble getting over the hump, there's a reason for it. And the reason is probably because you've hit a ceiling on what you can accomplish doing things the way you did it that got you to where you are, and you have to rethink it. And it could be you're trying to do everything. That has a ceiling for sure of what you can accomplish. It could be, you operate in the dark ages. You don't have a CRM or anything like that. You're doing what I was doing in my first couple of years of my career. Doing paper apps, file cabinets. These inefficiencies in your business that make everything take longer than it needs to. Could be that. It could be. It could be that you completely rely on referrals, something we didn't even get into on this episode, but there's a lot of agents like that too. And you don't have any predictable lead flow. It could be that you just need to identify what the problem is. But I think in this episode, we probably went through a significant multitude of the common reasons why we see people not being able to break through. But you just need to identify that, and then you need to make yourself uncomfortable and get out of your comfort zone, and in many ways get out of your own way to allow change to happen with what you do in the business and how your business operates. And I think that is the real key, right? Because you have a foundation. If you're in the 6-figure range, multiple 6-figure range, you have a strong foundation of a business. And for most people, that's the hardest part, is developing that foundation. So you've done the hardest part, in my estimation. Now you just need to identify, okay, how do we take this foundation and build off of it, right? Like, you have a foundation, but the house just doesn't show up on it, right? You need to build the house out of it with different materials in order to, kind of get where you need to go. So that would be my final thoughts on advice I would give to anybody that's watching that might find themselves in that predicament.
I think everything you said there was great. I agree with all that. I think for me personally, this was probably about a 3-year journey of going from multiple 6 figures to finally hitting that 7-figure mark. And I kept making changes. So, step 1 is understanding that you are going to have to make changes. If you start to hit that plateau and you're not seeing the type of growth that'll get you to 7 figures, you need to first understand changes need to be made. I understood that pretty quickly, but what I was doing is I was making changes in the wrong places of the wrong things. I was trying to change up essentially what I was selling. I wasn't trying to change up operationally, replacing myself. And that was really the thing that ultimately got me from that multiple 6-figure mark to 7 figures, was replacing myself at some of these core tasks: sales, customer service, operations, bringing in the right staff, making sure the right systems and infrastructure's there. You need to get on top of your business and stop operating inside your business. That was ultimately the change that really led me. It wasn't getting into all these other things I was experimenting with. It was driving the ship, but getting out of being inside it. So those are my final thoughts. Again, I want to reiterate what Christian mentioned at the start of the episode. We are doing Freebie Friday. Every Friday, we're doing a giveaway. All you have to do is comment on one of our live streams here in the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. If you're listening to this podcast or you found us somewhere else and you're not in the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, you need to get in there. Just search 7-Figure Medicare Agent on Facebook. You'll find the group. It'll pop right up. Jump in there and then just comment on any of the live streams from the current week. Every time you comment, it gets you one entry into the Friday giveaway. So there will be 4 episodes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You can potentially enter up to 4 times, which gives you much better odds of winning. And then Friday evening, we announce the winner. And this week, it's going to be free Turning 65 leads, potentially multiple winners this week. So if you haven't commented yet, get in the comments, drop something, ask us a question, comment on the episode, give us some aspect or some insight of what you're thinking based on the episode that you're watching or listening. And best of luck on our giveaway every Friday freebie Fridays, as I'm calling it. Freebie Fridays, everybody.
I love it. Again, to reiterate, best of luck to you guys if you enter. All you have to do is comment on one of the streams in the Facebook group to enter. Hope you guys have a great chance of winning. Thank you guys for making it all the way to the end of the episode. If you're watching on a platform or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, give us a 5-star review, subscribe to the show so you don't miss any type of episodes. If you're watching on YouTube or anything like that, make sure that you throw some comments into the comments section so we can interact with you. And thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. If you watch the replay on a platform that allows you to do so, comment #team replay, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the 7 Figures or Buzz podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Happy selling.